Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. A former high-ranking state health employee fired over a personal email she sent to Spokane's Board of Health is hoping her wrongful termination case will be heard by the state Supreme Court. New at 10 tonight, Kyle Simchuk sat down with the woman's attorneys to talk about the case.
When Spokane's former health officer Bob Lutz was fired during the middle of the COVID pandemic, there were protests. People put up yard signs, and health board members received hundreds of emails criticizing them and Administrative Officer Amelia Clark. Erica Henry sent one of those emails, and months later, she lost her job at the State Department of Health.
So in your opinion, does this case boil down to free speech?
Oh, yeah.
Marshall Casey and Marcus Swiester are representing Henry in her wrongful termination suit against Washington Department of Health. They say Henry sent the letter from her personal Gmail account on her own time and made no mention of her role as DOH Acting Assistant Secretary for Emergency Preparedness.
At the time, was speaking out because she has 2 children in our public school system here in Spokane, and her husband's also a teacher. At the time, there was a debate going on in the community that involved Bob Lutz about whether or not schools should reopen.
A few months after sending the email, Henry visited Spokane Regional Health with the newly appointed Secretary of Health, Umar Shah. Henry told us what happened in an interview last year.
When we walked into the meeting, there was a planned ambush against me for the email I had written at that point, approximately 4 months earlier.
Henry was investigated by the Department of Health and fired. Bob Lutz, the person she spoke out in support of, was hired by the state.
One of the interesting things that they're also stating about her is she shouldn't have signed it. She should have remained anonymous. And honestly, that's an amazing statement that if you work for the government, they own your name. You have to be anonymous.
Henry's lawsuit has moved from Spokane Superior Court to federal court. Now her attorneys want the case in front of the state Supreme Court. However, Assistant Attorney General Jacob Brooks is asking a judge to end the lawsuit ahead of trial. In documents filed last week, he says Henry's email caused a substantial disruption to the operations of the Department of Health, adding the Supreme Court has recognized that the government may impose certain restraints on the speech of its employees that would be unconstitutional if applied to the general public. A federal judge will hear those arguments this August. In Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Tonight, our Verify team is following up and answering your questions about a settlement that's related to a data breach at the Washington Department of Licensing. Since our story first aired, we've had a lot of you reach out with more questions. The one we keep hearing, what if you don't get a postcard in the mail, but you still think you might qualify? We took that question back to our legal expert.
What if you did not get a postcard, but you think you might be impacted?
It's a good question. I mean, sometimes, postcards get lost in the mail. Somebody's postcard got tucked into junk mail and accidentally thrown away. If you received a notice from the Department of Licensing in February or March of last year that you were impacted by this data breach, but you don't receive a postcard in the next week or two, you should contact our settlement administrator, and they have the class list and they can tell you if you're a member.
For more information about how to contact the settlement administrator, just text us the letters DOL to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them right to your phone. All right, taking a quick break from the headlines right now. We are bracing for a major warm-up in temperature starting tomorrow. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo for more on what we need to know. Jeremy?
Well, Mark, the sun set more than an hour ago, but check it out. Still a beautiful glow on the horizon. Pretty warm, too, considering. Right now we sit at 78 degrees. That's close to 80. You could have figured that out on your own, but yeah, it's warm. Warmest night so far this year, and our storms are starting to dissipate. Those are the ones moving into parts of North Idaho. A little bit of lightning still there, but not much. The big story is the heat, but the heat comes with a fire weather watch. Fire weather watch will be in effect on Saturday. It's going to be hot, dry, and windy from the Okanagan Valley all the way down through northern Oregon, and it's really all about just how dry and hot we get. Then the wind picks up, and as the wind picks up, it is going to eventually usher in a slightly cooler day on Sunday, but overall, it's nothing but heat. Tomorrow kicks it off. 90 degrees, Friday 92, and Saturday 93. It is going to be hot. 93, that's near 90 in case you were wondering.
Whole lot of math tonight in the forecast.
Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you very much. And as it gets hotter over the next few days, Meals on Wheels is asking for your help to keep our seniors safe. They need about 200 fans to meet the demand. Some older adults are more prone to heat stress due to chronic illnesses, medication, and living without air conditioning. So to help out, you can drop off any working fan to the downtown Spokane Meals on Wheels office. They are open from 8:30 in the morning till 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And new tonight, a Hauser woman was sentenced to 15 years in prison with parole eligibility after 5 years for intent to deliver a controlled substance. That's according to the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. 41-year-old Paula Lee Riojas was convicted of that charge, plus possession of a firearm and bail jumping, after deputies found more than 2 pounds of heroin in her bedroom, along with 3 guns. Riojas' firearm rights were suspended in 2017. A judge also sentenced her to 2 other 5-year sentences for the firearm and bail jumping convictions. Also new tonight, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office asking for help identifying 3 suspects for vandalism. The suspects, they say, went to a Conoco in Cataldo, Idaho just before midnight earlier this month. They were then caught on surveillance video kicking and knocking over a Pepsi vending machine. The damage totaled more than $1,500. The 3rd suspect not pictured was a woman wearing a gray shirt and shorts. They were driving a 2007 to 2012 silver Hyundai Santa Fe. Anyone with information is urged to call that number right there at the bottom of your screen. And just 24 hours after former NFL quarterback Ryan Mallett drowned in Florida, officials are warning people to stay out of the water. They say rip currents this month are strong and have killed 11 people this month alone. The local sheriff there says he is frustrated that visitors are not listening to warnings and putting his team at risk.
When there's someone on the shoreline saying, hey, it's not safe right now, there's a danger right here that we need to be cautious about, you need to heed the warning of the lifeguard.
On double red flag days like what this beach saw over the weekend, conditions are so bad that swimmers are banned from the water, and those who ignore warnings face up to $500 in fines. Meantime, pop music legend Madonna is recovering tonight from what her manager says was a serious bacterial infection that put her in intensive care for several days. Madonna was rushed to a New York area hospital on Saturday where she was intubated for at least 1 night after being found unresponsive. Madonna's health is improving, but she is still receiving medical care, according to an Instagram post by her manager. Well, protesters shot fireworks at police in a Paris suburb tonight after police shot and killed a 17-year-old boy. The teenager was from North Africa, and his death had fueled complaints against police brutality. Today, French President Emmanuel Macron called the shooting, quote, inexcusable. And now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. One of the victims of the Gorge campground shooting has been released from the hospital. August Morningstar says he came face to face with the shooter before he was shot in the shoulder. He has undergone multiple surgeries over the past week, but remains in good spirits. He told KREM 2 last week that he won't let the shooting define him.
I'm not going to let one bad experience ruin the rest of my days.
2 women were killed during that shooting and 2 others were also hurt. The suspect also injured after he was shot by police. He is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and expected back in court next week. A 90-day due diligence plan to address homelessness has come to an end. Today, city leaders presented their recommendations for funding, staffing, and structuring of a regional authority on homelessness. They say their proposal could reduce the city's homeless population by 40% in the next 2 years.
The suggested model for addressing homelessness has also been now expanded to housing and health and safety. And so we have some pretty aggressive goals, but we have the people with the determination to get the job done. So that's what I'm excited about. It's an opportunity this region has never seen before.
Now the materials presented today will be reviewed for the next 60 days. The goal is to begin work on the regional authority by January 1st of next year.
This is a little unusual this year, but to me it's a sign of it's going to be a great summer.
Well, that is Todd Beck, the owner of Beck's Farmhouse, declaring an early harvest for cherries, meaning summer is well underway. He says right now there are more than 500 cherry trees loaded with fruit, much earlier than normal thanks to the hot weather we have been seeing. So if you're looking for something to do this weekend, head on up to Green Bluff. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just text us the word night to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them right to your phone.